Well, here we are again. It's Dev Diary 57. Today we're going to be talking about species rights, or as in my videos, I generally refer to them as Xeno rights. Well, fair enough. It's kind of littered with a whole bunch of stuff, really. There's a bunch of features, and some of them are paid, and some of them will be free in 1.5. And this is actually the first Dev Diary where we are seeing the term paid feature, the pop in, or at least the pop up for this particular title. At least I don't think we saw it in Guardians, in the Leviathans expansion. But yeah, it's interesting to see these things again. We didn't see it in Dev Diary 56, etc. Shall we begin? Let's begin. Species rights is a new feature within the expansion, which will be brought in for free in 1.5. You will be able to give your species various types of citizenship, which is rather interesting to diverge your population. Right now, you can basically set your species, or at least set your empire, between two different factions: your founder species and everybody else. And to quote the developers here, they felt that they needed more granularity in this particular area, making multi-species empires more interesting, and I totally agree. Therefore, in banks, it will now be possible to individually determine the rights and obligation of every single species in your empire. I can see this becoming a multitasking crazy town sort of situation here, because we're going to run into empires that have dozens of species in it. In addition to setting rights for a species currently in an empire, you can also set the rights for species outside of your empire. For example, granting a species you would like to attract to your empire via migration, full citizenship, and a good living standard. All right, that's interesting. So basically you can say, hey, you guys over there, if you want to live over here, we got some good stuff going on here. I'm getting a very weird vibe from this. This feels very Tau to me. I don't like purple blueberries. The most fundamental status of a species is your citizenships, which is arguably true. And these will be distributed in 5 different categories of types of citizenship. A pup that's currently enjoying full citizenship is unlikely to move to another empire where their rights will be curtailed, however. These 5 classifications are full citizenship. Full citizenship are fully integrated within your empire and have all the rights your normal population would have. A caste system. A species with a caste system is a mix of full citizenship and slavery, with pups working in the farms and mines being enslaved and the rest being free to enjoy the fruits of the serf's labor. I like this. This is interesting. Limited citizenship. Species with limited citizenship are tolerated but not integrated within the populations in your empire. While not enslaved, and their right to vote stands for the political office is curtailed. Okay, so basically, you're allowed to live there, you're allowed to work there, but you're not allowed to vote there. Interesting. Okay, that's cool. And they are also restricted from settling on your core worlds. And core worlds is another thing there. Slaves, goes without saying. Undesirables are species that you do not wish to exist in your empire, and you will push them away as much as you possibly can. That is interesting. Military service is a martial obligation for your to this species, so you can set any species to have military service. Fully military service, soldiers and officers, allowing you to recruit generals. That's cool. Living standards, how economically favored a population is, so how happy you can make them. Migration controls, how easily a species can move around. Population controls, whether or not they are allowed to grow or not. This is kind of cool. So a species with population control will not be allowed to grow new pops, but neither will their existing pops die off. So they basically will replenish themselves, but they're not allowed to grow. There's some new ethics factions in your new factions in your empire will have different preferences of what species right you can employ, such as authoritarian pops do liking caste systems, and supremacists do not liking full citizenships aliens. And there's an interesting little screen here basically showing this interface. I am so worried that we are gonna end up with an incredibly complicated, not quality of life orientated interface regarding this. I hope that you will be able to select everything at once and just give them like a whole array of things, which is nice. Purge and slavery types, which is a paid feature. You gotta pay if you want to purge. And there's some new slavery types, including chattel, domestic servitude, battle thralls. I like that one. This represents a system of enforced martial serfdom. Battle thralls have no boost to any resource production, a moderate penalty to energy and science production, but armies recruiting from them are stronger. A battle thrall world where you armies are grown from the icy realms into power armor. I think those guys are called the wolves, not entirely sure. A livestock. This represents a species that is regularly culled, and this is the best bit, to be used as food. Livestock produces a fixed number of extra food, but are completely unable to produce when any kind of resource. You can, oh, this is great. You can farm people. That is awesome. It's awful, but it's awesome nonetheless. Purging options, extermination. That's what we currently have. Displacement. You can displace any species. Forced labor. Species placed in camps are forced to do hard labor under brutal conditions with inadequate food and shelter, effectively working them to death. This is a purge type, by the way. Pops doing forced labor will be killed off more slowly through extermination, but will continue to produce minerals and food, but a lot less energy. Processing. Here we go. This species is processed into food for consumption of other pops. Pops being processed generate a fixed amount of food and die off at a fairly fast pace, but cannot be. And then the final one, and this one is pretty brutal itself. Neutering. The species is prevented from reproducing through chemical castration or biological modification, eventually dying off naturally. I wonder whether or not you should be able to probably genetically engineer a neuter population, because the neutering is based on the species' lifespan. So the longer the lifespan of a species is, the longer it's going to take them to die off. So if you could genetically engineer them to be fleeting and have that minus 20% lifespan bonus, then you can probably kill them off fairly quickly. And yeah, purging allowed. That is awful. Displacement only is a purge option now. That's absolutely terrible. Then there is a fascinating new feature called Consumer Good, and this one will be coming in for free. Another issue we've tried to tackle in banks is mineral inflation. Now, for those people that don't know what that means, it's basically the runaway train of minerals in the late game where you're just starting to generate ridiculous amounts of minerals, especially in the larger empires anyway. In order to address this, we've introduced a new mineral cost called Consumer Goods. So Consumer Goods are, if you've ever played Hearts of Iron, it's very similar to consumer factories in its concept, where you need consumer factories to build consumer goods which you can then use for trade. However, in this particular case, consumer goods will be used to upkeep the living standards of a species. Now, there is a rather interesting little thing as well, if we can go back to. Living standards are subdivided in non-existent, subsistence, poor, good, and utopian. And you'll probably need to spend a significant amount of minerals to actually get around this. Each unit of consumer good costs a certain number of minerals depending on factors such as ethics, traditions, whether your empire is engaged in a defensive war, and so on. This is actually rather interesting. It adds another managerial element to your empire that should be kind of cool to play around with. I'm really interested in what we're going to see here. Refugee and Core Worlds, which is going to be a free feature. New policies that tie into the mechanics of species right. Core world populations, you can define who can live on your core worlds. Whether or not you want to have refugees in your empire. If one of the other empires displaces a species through purging, you can basically say, we got an open door policy. Come on, you'll bring your best, like doctors and stuff. Where have I heard this one before? And here I was saying that we're going to keep this channel political free. Anyway, the more restrictive and accept only pops that you wanted to gain citizenship, or simply shut down the acceptance of refugees altogether. Cool. So that will wrap up Death Diary 57. I hope you enjoyed this. And next time, we're going to be talking about something that I have been waiting for a long time. orbital habitats, baby. We're going to see some tiles in space. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.